What's up, everyone? It's NFL Week 12, and we're taking a look at the NFL Week 12 main slate on FanDuel, where we're going to go through position by position, look for some value, look for some strategies, try to figure out who we're stacking, and how we're going to take down this FanDuel Sunday Million contest. Let's get into it. And of course, to get a feel for the slate, the first thing I always like to do is take a look at the game tiles, where we can get an idea of what the projected Vegas game and team totals are to see what games stand out. Of course, FanDuel includes the Sunday night game, which is actually a really exciting one. So cool, right? We get some extra players in this one compared to DraftKings. But let's give a brief overview of a couple of these games. Now, normally I would ignore the Giants-Tampa game, but I can't ignore it. Tampa's got a pretty nice total. They got Mike Evans coming back. Giants are a disaster, but they got Tommy Cutlets coming in. So a lot of things could happen with that game that could actually work out really well for us. So I'm not turning off the Bucs-Giants game, but it is a 41-point total, and the team total is pretty gross for the Bucs, quite honestly, relative to what I think. I think they'll outscore that, but we'll keep that game in mind. Next, we've got the Patriots at the Dolphins, 46-point total. Dolphins getting a lot of points at home in this one, 26 3/4. I think we want to play Achane and lots of him in that one and see if anybody else stands out. KC at the Panthers. So the theme of this week are these kind of blowout games where pretty good offenses are going up against horrific teams with terrible defenses. And really, that's a little bit of the Patriots-Dolphins game, but more so KC at the Panthers is that way. I would say, Lions at the Colts has that situation happening. Maybe a little bit with Houston at the Titans. So those, and of course, Bucs at the Giants. So there are a bunch of these kind of blowout games, and Washington at Dallas, or Dallas at Washington, right? All of these games have something in common, which is bad defenses, bad teams taking on good offensive teams. And it's like not likely to be a competitive game, but those offenses with the high team totals, we saw last week with the Lions, those offenses just go out there and style every once in a while. So, rather than diving into each one, just understand that the Dolphins, Chiefs, Commanders, and Lions are all in the same spot this week where they're heavily favored against pretty bad defensive opponents that aren't likely to be competitive. So we have to treat those a certain way. Those games can pop for those offenses, even though the game is not likely to be competitive. So we have to just be aware of it and keep it in mind. I mean, is the Broncos-Raiders that way too? Maybe. You could almost call the Broncos-Raiders that way as well. I like the home team in those scenarios a little bit more. So like Washington to me stands out a little bit more than a team like the Broncos who are on the road at the Raiders. Then we've got a couple competitive games to keep an eye on. The Cardinals at Seahawks. I think that's going to be an exciting game and one we should be targeting here on our DFS lineups. We've got San Francisco at the Packers, 47.5 points. Again, close game, close spread, close everything. Two really good offenses, also good defenses. So that one can go a lot of different ways. And I'd put the final game of the slate, Eagles at the Rams, in that same basket. Both teams have great offenses, pretty good defenses. Eagles defense is getting to be very, very good. And the Rams are just all right this year. 49-point total. This one should be a sexy game. So let's take a quick look at the power rankings and get an idea of what parts of which teams and which offenses should do well based on projections. The power rankings is something we put together over at the Sharp app. It's put together by John Statsational Essia, the head of betting content at Sharp app. And what this does is it just looks at it first looks at what teams are allowing defensively to positions above their average. So how many yards a game does Kansas City allow above average to opposing running backs, for example? And it is very few, as Kansas City is one of the best. And so when you combine those numbers, then you look at something like the Carolina rushing yard average, and you combine the two numbers and you get these totals. So in this case, Kansas City expected to potentially rush for 153 yards and throw for 239 yards, which is very good and a positive for their offense. Right. So as we take a look through and just glance through here, we see, okay, Vikings, 220 passing yards. That's all right. Nothing great there. Houston, nothing really popping in this game against Tennessee Houston. Detroit Colts, everything's popping for Detroit. Passing yards, rushing yards, just a total demolition. Patriots, Miami. Again, Miami running game seems to be the thing that stands out the most in that one. Dallas at Washington. Washington running game and a little bit of the passing, but definitely the Washington running game stands out here as well. Bucks running backs against the Giants. That one's interesting. No one's playing Rachaad White. I guess that's a good play. Nothing exciting here. Denver, Vegas. San Francisco, Green Bay. I see kind of both running games are very much in play with 140-yard projections. And the 49ers passing game is very much in play. Okay, keep it in mind. Arizona, Seattle. The opposite situation comes up. In Arizona-Seattle game, Seattle passing yards, Arizona rushing yards. James Conner, what's up, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then Eagles-Rams, it's that running game for the Eagles that's popping on the chart here. Well, why not? It's Saquon, right? So there we go. With that as our background, let's jump over to FanDuel and dive in. And the way I like to do this is I go position by position and kind of talk through each player. What do we think of the price? What do we think of the value? And come up with some of our favorites for the NFL Week 12 slate. Now, one thing I like to do just before I do that is go over to the Domination Station Optimizer. I'm going to hit the refresh button here, and I'm just going to sort each position group by fantasy points per dollar to see who pops on a projection basis, right? And we see some interesting things here on FanDuel. Geno Smith and actually Sam Darnold against Chicago is so cheap that actually he's even popping a little bit. Geno, Richardson, Jordan Love down here at this price is going to be pretty wild. So, and look at the difference. Jordan Love at now 7,300, Jaden Daniels 9K. I'm pretty sure that Jordan Love is right. Let me check this. Let me just check the DraftKings price because I'm pretty sure Jordan Love was priced massively up on DraftKings as if he's a stud. Yeah, so on DraftKings, check this out. Jordan Love's the third highest priced quarterback. He's number 3. On FanDuel, which is a sharper pricing system, by the way, than DraftKings, FanDuel is more correct. On FanDuel, Jordan Love is, sort towards the bottom of the list here of QBs. I can't even count it. It's so many down. He's QB 13 or 14. So definitely Jordan Love is popping already for me in this spot. I like that quite a bit. I like the value. Let's see, Matthew Stafford. Okay. Yeah, Jaden Daniels got to pay up for him. Drake May, acceptable at 6,900. So these guys are all popping in the projection model. Oh, we got ownerships as well. So we can take a look here. Looks like Achane will be one of the higher owned players. Here's James Conner. McCaffrey. Josh Jacobs is popping on the models a little bit. Kenny Walker, nice. Ramondre, acceptable. Brian Robinson priced up. That's wild. Rico Dowdle priced down. That might be interesting. So, and Tyrone Tracy priced all the way down here. I like that. A little bit. Aaron Jones might be playable. So Kareem Hunt might be the best of them all might be one of the best of them all if Pacheco doesn't play. So we have a lot of things to consider at running back. Let's take a look at wide receiver real quick. Again, sorted by value. Ridley, definitely Mike Evans, 8K, even he's popping as a value. That's wild. AJ Brown. Nothing really stands out here to me too much. Puka. Oh, no, that's Tank Dallas. I thought Puka was inexpensive. Juwan Jennings up to 6,700. There we go. And then ownership sort. Yeah, there's not too much ownership going on. Calvin Ridley, the highest owned. Okay. The Riddler, Michael Pittman, Roma Dunze popping. Unusual group of wide receivers popping for us here on FanDuel. And just again, real quick, sorting by fantasy points per dollar, just to see where the best values are. Kelsey, McBride, Henry, Bowers. And then ownership, it's Kelsey, Henry, Zach Ertz a little bit. So there we go. All right, just a brief, you want to get a sense of the values before you're making these lineups, and projections are there for a reason. They are the guideline. That should be the primary guiding source. So with that being said, let's jump into it. QB position, NFL Week 12 on FanDuel. Jalen Hurts in the nightcap, Sunday Night Football. He's been spectacular. What's not to like about Jalen Hurts? I think this could be one of those games where he's very much needed. I don't like this ankle situation. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think Hurts is a great play. 9,300 is a lot to pay. I think Hurts is probably a better play than Jaden Daniels at that price. Jaden at 93 at 9K has not really produced a ton of scores that were worthy of that kind of salary, and about 27 fantasy points minimum, and ideally, 30 plus. We got some 25s in there, so he can get it done. But this game does not look to be super competitive, so buyer beware on Jaden. That could be one of those spots where they just run for touchdowns. Jared Goff coming off the big game last week, hard to knock him. 29 passing attempts, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's crazy. Can he do it another week? He's in a very similar spot. It's so similar. He's in the mix. Mahomes, I'm going to try to pay down, but he's definitely in the mix. Mahomes here, 8,400, certainly hasn't justified that salary level at all this year, but it's a great matchup for him. Brock Purdy. Yeah, I think we're going to go with the other side of that matchup, but Brock Purdy at 8,100, very popular this week. Bo Nix has been getting it done the last few weeks as well. There's Baker at 7,900, easily stackable with Mike Evans and or Kate Otten, so we'll keep him in mind. Tua, I usually don't play in DFS. Stroud has just not been good. Anthony Richardson, maybe, but a lot of it was smoke and mirrors last week. I'm not sure that he can get this done again. Took 2 rushing touchdowns for him to produce a 28. He's going to have to run for touchdowns, but I don't know if it was the Jets being terrible or Richardson, being good right now. I'm really not sure, but I do want some Lions defense. Okay, scrolling down a little bit, here we've got Geno, and I like this spot at 7,400 at home against Arizona. Geno's been slinging it, 32, 34. Yeah, I mean, earlier in the season, we had the 50, 40, and 52 passing attempts games. They've tamped that down a little bit, and it's now kind of, back in that mid-30s range for his passing attempts per game. But this is a great matchup against Arizona. Arizona can score. Seattle can answer. It does favor Seattle running game a little bit more, but I like me some Geno. But I think we're going to go with Jordan Love, Joe Low, as our starting quarterback. And, Love is at home. San Francisco can score really quickly. This game is a competitive game, but I like the price point. I like the fact that Jordan Love is priced way up on DraftKings, and we're getting him at a discount on FanDuel. I like the bargain. It's like buying Jordan Love with a coupon. I love a coupon. Other potential QB spots, Matthew Stafford. Yeah. You know what? Matt Stafford, as much as I want to knock him, there's been a change in how the Rams play around the goal line. In the last couple games, they've been throwing the football, which has led to plenty of touchdowns for Matthew Stafford, as you can see last week, 4 passing touchdowns. It's been at the expense of Kyron Williams. So they're throwing touchdowns to Puka. Even I think Colby Parkinson got one last week. Cooper Kupp is getting them, and it's all come at the expense of Kyron. So if that flips back, these good games for Matthew Stafford are going to go away. But for now, yeah, I think he's playable at 7,200. I normally don't play Matthew Stafford, but he's playable there. I don't really love taking on Chicago defense. They're really good. I don't really like, at this point, playing Caleb. He's not very good. But going down here looking for some cheap value, yeah, Drake May's been pretty consistent, 8, 19, 12, but 17, 11, 20, 20. So he's, there've been good games for him. There've been some good ones. I think he's acceptable at 6,900. What's Will Levis up to? Yeah, I hate him so much. I wasn't planning, but I just wanted to see if he was even worth consideration. And then, of course, all the way at Stoneman 6K, if you have a want an offer, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. And yet I can refuse it. Tommy Cutlets, 6K in the best possible quarterback matchup. on the slate against Tampa. They score. They can't stop the pass. Is Cutlets viable? Can we play some Tommy Cutlets? Yes. Now, we're not going to use them for this lineup, but yes, I will play some Cutlets this week stacked with Malik Neighbors. All right. Let's shift gears to the running back position. And running back is all about, like, they're priced pretty well here on FanDuel. It's just about, which ones can I afford this week? I want to see what's going on with Pacheco. Yeah. So anyway, who can we afford? Saquon Barkley, great spot. Oh, looks amazing, but 10,000. Wow. Even more expensive than CM Sizzles. That's crazy. Mixon, not the best spot. I like the situation for Devon Achane, but now he's priced up at 9K. And also, not sure how many 9K players we can really afford in a lineup like this. So actually, you know what I think we should do? Because running back is really important on FanDuel. I'm going to save that one for last. Let's go defense, wide receiver, tight end, and then end with the running backs. We need 3 of them to see what we can afford. So we're going to try to build sort of a low-cost lineup here and see affordability. So how do I look at defenses? It's very simple. I like to target teams that have been generous to opposing defenses throughout the year, meaning they turn the ball over, pick sixes, and all that kind of stuff. That will show in the opponent rank. Then I want to target teams that have quarterbacks that turn the ball over, and I'm looking for the cheapest possible team that fits that criteria. Ideally, they're underdogs. Maybe their home underdogs are the ultimate bad teams, right? So with that being said, Panthers, no. Colts, no. Raiders, no. Giants, no. Dallas, no. Titans, maybe. Titans are a good defense. They're at home, but they are a home underdog, which is bad. Cardinals at Seattle, again, I'll give them a maybe. New England, no. Seattle at home against Arizona, maybe. Chicago against Minnesota, playable. But we're starting to get close to actual good play. So let's see what an actual good play might look like. Packers, Rams, no. Packers, no. Eagles, no. 49ers, no. Bucks, yes. Tommy Cutlets, right? We want to target Cutlets. Miami, yes. Detroit at the Colts, hell yes, right? Against Anthony Richardson. Houston at home against Will Levis, yes. Vikings at Chicago, yes. So these, they're priced pretty correct. So any one of these 5K to kind of 4,400, I think are reasonable. And if we go below it, I think we're kind of hoping and praying rather than playing something good. So we are going to pay a little bit here. And I'm going to roll with Houston, as I think Will Levis is the worst of the starting quarterbacks this week. Although, Tampa is very much in play as well. At 44, actually, we'll go with Tampa. We'll go a little cheaper here. Tampa. As much as I love me some Tommy Cutlets, I don't actually love me some Tommy Cutlets. It's more of a fun story. He actually is terrible. But any one of these can work. All right. Tight end. Yeah, let's just roll through the tight end position again. Going a little crazy, a little backwards. By the way, if you were looking for my FanDuel video last week, I got a comment that, hey, what happened to the video? You didn't put it up there. I actually did, but as it turned out, I recorded it. About 15 minutes in, this mic just stopped working. And so I put it out there, and then it was out there with no volume after 15 minutes. So we just deleted it, and it was already too late to make another one. So that's what happened. All right. Tight end position, rolling from the top. Let's take a look at who we got here. George Kittle. Yeah, I mean, he's got that hamstring injury, so let's see what that's about. Intention to return, saying he'll, quote, for sure play Sunday. I don't like the hammy. I don't like paying up for it, so it's probably out for me. Brock Bowers may be playable here. He's been so freaking good. It's ridiculous. Travis Kelce's been on the upswing as well, but, non-competitive matchup. I'm not sure how much of that I want. McBride at Seattle. Cade Otton, what's funny is another 8 targets last week, but didn't do much with him. What's funny about situations like this, right? People are going to get off of Kate Otten this week. I'm going to say, hey, Mike Evans is back. So all of that volume is going to go away. But a lot of times it doesn't go away. It keeps going. So I'm not going to ignore. I think he's got that sneaky value. Like, I think he's one of these guys that no one's going to play this week, but Evans comes back, but he still kind of gets the Godwin role and does a lot of damage. So I like Kate Otten. I'm definitely not ignoring him. Hawkinson playable. Laporta, very playable. He's back this week. 5,800. That's a reasonable price on a team that's going to score a ton this week. So yeah, we'll keep him in mind. Janu Smith coming off a monster game. Whoa, best game of his career, probably. Can't chase that. Some pay down options. Tucker Kraft would go nicely potentially with Jordan Love, but they have a lot of weapons in Green Bay. It's hard to pick one. The floor is really low with him. There's not much going on down here in the cheap zone. I guess backup tight end for Dallas. If, here he is, Schoonmaker. So, I mean, this might be the way to go. Backup quarterback, backup tight end for Dallas with Ferguson out. I'm going to plug in Schoonmaker and hope that, paying all the way down to 4,500 here works out for us. But let's see. If we have to pay for a more brand name guy, I mean, Kraft at 4,500. I think I'd be at Laporta or Hawkinson at 5,800, 6K. So a few really good options here at the tight end position, but I'm going to punt it all the way down to Schoonmaker. I'm going to assume Ferguson will be out. Yeah. And I'll take the freebie with Schoonmaker, working with a backup quarterback who's probably not that good. Cooper Rush / Trey Lance if they bench him, but backup QBs often target the tight end quite a bit. So I'm okay with it. Okay. Wide receiver spot. Now, one of the things we need to do is pay attention as we're building a Jordan Love lineup. We got to pay attention to his wide receivers and take a look at what they cost. So I'm going to first sort for that game and take a look at the price points for some of these guys. Jaden Reed, 7,300, fine. But we've got Christian Watson, who's coming off a pretty good game and has been making big plays for 5,900 or 6,100. And then Romeo Doubs down here for 5,900. Flip side of that game, of course, Debo and Jawan Jennings is coming up in price as well. So interesting. I'm going to put Christian Watson in here with Jordan Love. I like his touchdown equity. So for me, he's such a big play wide receiver, so many air yards, this kind of a game. I like that. And actually, I'm glad that I have this screen up because we need a piece from the 49ers as well. We're going to build a little game stack around this one. And I think it's Jawan Jennings for me. I want it to be Debo, but man, it's been forever since he's had a fantasy relevant game. And I'm starting to lose my faith. We'll plug in Jawan Jennings for now. Let's see what the salaries allow for. All right. So with that being said, though, let's get back to the full wide receiver group so we could talk them through. Let me sit back here and we'll talk through this wide receiver group. Yeah, there we go. We'll talk through this wide receiver group a little bit and kind of give our thoughts. So, oh my goodness, Cooper Kupp, 9,200. I get it, but still, wow. Amon-Ra, 9,500 in this game, a non-competitive. Okay, Collins as well, and Jeffrey. These are all studs, right? I'm a little shocked to see Cooper Kupp priced all the way here. There's Puka at 8,600, also playable. I think these are good games, acceptable situations, but I think Kupp and Puka would probably be the ones I'm more interested in that late night game. They're going to need them to stay competitive. Tyreek Hill, 8,300, coming off of actually, he did do some damage, 7 targets, did a little better, but we still haven't seen that Tyreek Hill game. Malik Neighbors is now tied in with Tommy Cutlets, and I like it, but it's a little sketchy as well. Mike Evans with Baker Mayfield, Metcalf, like the Metcalf play. I love the Evans play. McLaurin is playable. Debo here. JSN, so good. Right? let's take a look at Jackson Smith and Jigba. And yeah, 11, 13. We got to play Jackson Smith and Jigba this week. He's just getting peppered with targets, but let's see if we can find something cheaper. Jaden Reed. The only reason I'm not pairing up Reed with Jordan Love is just like, where are the big games? A 26, but the volume has not been there. Where's the volume? I think this guy might be, I think it might be fool's gold. The volume hasn't been there. Can't trust it. Marvin Harrison at 7,200. I like it. JMO, we liked JMO last week. That worked out pretty well. DeAndre Hopkins with KC. That could pop as well. I like this spot. Hopkins had the one Rashee Rice game and hasn't really done that since. So is it coming back? Yo, I don't know. Turn up the mics and I'll blow. I don't know what I'm saying. Hopkins. 78.33 left. Just keep it on. Continuing on through the wide receiver. Sorry, I did my Vanilla Ice just came out. Get back in there. Okay. DJ Moore, 6K. It's a pretty good price for DJ Moore. Waddle, 5,900. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. There's some good, cheap wide receiver options here. Everybody likes Calvin Ridley. He's going to be chalky, so okay. I don't mind that. I wouldn't mind plugging in the Riddler either. Very acceptable. So if we needed to get off of some an expensive like JSN who's not tied into our stacks, this would be how we'd have to go. Actually, I will do that. But I did want to show. I like JSN. I love him. But if we need to save some money, this is where we need to be. So I don't have any kind of problem with maybe a DJ Moore, maybe Ridley who's going to be chalk. Or DeAndre Hopkins, all playable. All right, I'm just checking the salary remaining here and see if there's any other wide receivers I want to mention. Michael Pittman, interesting. Romeo Doubs could work in this lineup instead of Watson or along with Watson as a double stack with Jordan Love. Jordan Love lineups need to just almost be computer generated. Because really I'm going to stack him with two, but which two? Reed. Doubs. Now, I guess Wicks has been sort of less involved lately, but I feel like he's still on the field. Yeah, he's still out there. Just hasn't done a whole lot. Yeah, in the cheap zone, we're going to hear about Ricky Pearsall acceptable kind of in stacks with his QB, but I mean, we're going to hear a lot about Westbrook Akine. He's coming off of quite a nice little run of fantasy production. I think that's also fool's gold. I'm not chasing it. I do think Rome Odunze, these kind of guys are very GPP viable. Look at all these targets Odunze's getting in there. There's a ton of air yards in those targets for him at 5,400. So I don't mind that. Yeah, Tolbert. There are definitely some lower cost wide receivers that are acceptable this week. We are continuing our stack. So let's jump over to the running back position. We've got 8,300 left. We saved a lot of salary going frugal with the rest of this lineup because we wanted to play really good running backs. So let's see if we can get a trio of awesome running backs. Remember that on FanDuel, you always, I'm going to say always, most of the time, I pretty much always use running backs in the flex. FanDuel very much rewards touchdowns more than, PPR receptions. So I do tend to focus on running backs in the flex on FanDuel. So let's look at a couple spots that I like here, and we'll just go through the entire running back position. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is a great play. He's in a beautiful spot, but if we put this 10K player in here, we are punting the other two spots. So keep it in mind, but he certainly has been spectacular this year. McCaffrey in a great spot, Mixon in a great spot, Achane great. Gibbs a little less great just because he's splitting with Montgomery. You never trust these two. Kyron losing touchdowns to Kupp and Puka is not great for me. Again, Pacheco, don't know if he's going to play. Kenneth Walker, sure. At home against the Cardinals. I like both running backs in that game, but I don't mind plugging in some Kenny Doubs right there. I almost want to play James Conner. Brian Robinson's acceptable as well. Kareem Hunt at 7,500. If he gets the solo start, I don't know it right now. I don't want to plug him in this lineup because sometimes I forget to change them when stuff changes from the first look. I'm not going to plug him in, but if Kareem's getting this, if Hunt is getting the solo, I'm actually going to plug him in and basically say this: if Pacheco doesn't come back and Hunt gets another full game, this is a really good spot for him. And I like the price. It leaves us with a ton of salary for this last spot. So I'm plugging him in just for the good times, right? Aaron Jones, kind of playable. I don't like Chuba against KC. I don't really love Swift against Minnesota. Rachaad White is an acceptable play, but another name that I think is going to be fine is Tyrone Tracy. The Giants will lean heavy on this guy. He's going to see 25 opportunities. Will he get in the end zone? We'll see. But his odds of getting in the end zone are not that much different from anybody else. He's much cheaper, and he will get volume. Other cheap names, Pollard. Okay. Why not? Ramondre, sure. Rico Dowdle, he's starting. Javonte, hey, that could work, I guess. So there are definitely some pay down options here at the running back position that I think are acceptable. But since we have the salary in this lineup, why not plug in my favorite running back of the week, Devon Achane, YOLO. We roll with it. Jordan Love stacked with Christian Watson. Come back with Juwan Jennings in that game. We've got Kenny Walker, home favored. I don't know if he's favored, but home running back in a great spot. We've got Kareem, and this could easily be James Conner, a road running back in a great spot. Kareem Hunt, again, can be swapped out if we find out that Pacheco's playing. If Pacheco's playing, I don't want him or Hunt because they're just going to split time. So if the second he's active, I'm probably out on the Hunt play. If we had to get out on the Hunt play, there's so many options here. Josh Jacobs is really close by. It'd probably be James Conner or something like that. And we'll switch up. We would switch up something else in this lineup if he was out. I don't like actually Walker and Conner. Usually two running backs from the same game is kind of a weird no-no, but you get the idea. Yeah, cheap tight end to make it all work. And, a big play wide receiver. So, yeah, that should do it for the FanDuel NFL Week 12 first look. We got a good feel for the slate here. Still some news, some items to come out. But I think what we're going to end up doing is just really being liberal in terms of how many different QB wide receiver stacks we come up with. I've identified probably 8 or 9 super viable plays at the quarterback position. I know we only want one. Kevin narrowed it down to just one. But I don't have the ability to necessarily know, which of these guys is going to go the craziest. Some of them are tournament only. So if I was playing a cash game, for example, I do like to pay down, but I want to make sure and I'm locking in points. I do think that Love is a perfectly acceptable cash pay down option in that game. I don't mind Geno Smith as well. I really like Geno. I mean, it's so easy to turn this into a Geno lineup. Just Geno and we get JSN or Metcalf in there with him, get a piece from Arizona coming back, and it just becomes a Geno lineup. So it's really easy for these approaches to just quickly change out and make a few different versions of lineups based on, whatever QB wide receiver stacks. We go Mayfield, we want to put an Evans in there and all of that. So that should do it for this one, guys. FanDuel, let's take a look at the lobby here. So I'm continuing to attack the Sunday NFL Rush full roster as my did I change that? Yeah, as my primary contest to attack this year, $50K to first. It's only $3 per entry. They gave us a ton of free money in this contest earlier in the season, so I appreciate it. We're going to reward them, and keep in mind, everyone, that next week is Thanksgiving week, so we get the bonus 3-game slate on Thursday. It's an awesome week. Kids coming home from college get to hang out with the family as well. So that should be exciting. Good luck to everybody this week. Helmets up.
Sheesh. Big time. Knowing that. Diamonds in my teeth. I got a lot of shine.